for instance. We can move on to the next one. Okay. Process automation. Clearly, automation is a big component that you would want here in terms of rule-based decisioning, so that there's consistency and speed in making judgments. End-to-end traceability of claims, auditing so you can see the history of everything that's happened. Oftentimes you need to go back in the future, or claims get reopened. It's important to see all of that history. And again, integrated with part returns. And as we talked about predictive analytics, again, this is, I think, the holy grail, and not a lot of, companies may take a little while longer to address these issues, but it's important to check whether the solutions offer this. Can you measure the performance against various SLAs of your partners, your suppliers, or how your products are performing? Can you, do what-if analysis to see things like, well, hey, if I extend the term of my warranty by another year, what might it cost me based on looking at historical data, and is that a good business decision? Forecasting, and I think these are the things you talked about, but clearly there's a lot you can do to improve your business once you have the data in the system, and it's important that the upstream functions here capture the information that you need to do this predictive analysis and modeling. So again, I'll pause and just remind you all that if you have questions, please feel free to jump in and submit them in the chat window.
So Manish, we have one question.
Okay.
Yes. So the question here is, can the system that is built, what does it take really to get it to configure and capture failure for parts and the diagnostic information? Is that possible, and what kind of an effort would that involve?
So I assume what you're asking for is that, assuming that for certain types of failures you want additional information to be provided by the service provider or the dealer, yes, I mean, there are systems out there that can do that. Ours is one of them. We've even got specific examples of cases where, for example, a battery. We've heard that sometimes when honoring a claim on a battery, the manufacturer wants to make sure that the dealer does certain additional tests to make sure that the allegedly bad battery is actually failing. And so you can actually configure solutions to demand extra detail, even in very specific cases. So it's all a matter of, I think, looking at the solutions you have out there and working with that provider to make sure that all of your policies and needs for diagnostic data get requested at the point of claim entry. I'm not sure who asked the question, but if I didn't quite address it, please just let us know in the chat window. Otherwise, we'll go on. Roshan, do you think that covered it?
Yes, I think that should be
okay.
For now.
So let's move on then. Okay, so before we get into the case study, let's talk about just some possible saving scenarios. These are real-world numbers that we have seen in our experience, and so we think they are typical of what is possible there and fairly representative. You could reduce your warranty expenses by 20% or more, and some of the charts that Eric showed, I think, would give you some good motivation for that. You can achieve that by eliminating all duplicate claims, or eliminating, all fraud, or at least fraud in the categories that you can describe well with rules. You can reduce the time it takes to process claims by having some automation and automated decisioning. We've seen improvements of even, 25% there or more. And supply recovery is a big component. A lot of we've seen cases of saving. Reducing the time and also, increasing the rate of supply recovery dramatically to make sure that you, don't pay for the failures of your suppliers yourself. Claim cycle time, automation will clearly help here. We've seen benefits of up to 60% here, largely because many claims can be handled automatically, and also because the ones that require manual review, well, that review can occur more efficiently. Warranty reserves. Well, if you can reduce your expenses, clearly you can reduce your reserves, But it's also important to note that if you can better predict what's happening because you have more data and you have a better model, that also helps you, manage your reserves more efficiently, not put aside too much. So let's jump into a case study, and I would have loved.
We have one more question here.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the question has to do with machine failure and review. So let me just read out the question. So can we capture machine failure review done by our field staff before paying the claim? And what level of detail really is required to ensure, from a fraud standpoint, the claim is reviewed before submission?
Okay, that's a good. I think this again will depend on, in terms of what level of information is required. Well, that's probably more up to your company and its policies. But in terms of what the systems can do, and an example, maybe Roshan, why don't you chime in here?
Yeah, so I think some of the things we will also walk through in the case study. A critical part of this, problem here is the ability to, configure business rules in any application that you use to ensure that, the possibility of fraud that you may, foresee, or for that matter, if you are trying to ensure there is a specific causal part and a problem that you need to create in terms of a relationship, the system needs to enable you to do that. That helps you, get the claim to be validated even before it reaches you, and also ensures that the amount of work that you need to put in while processing the claim is significantly reduced. This further helps you down the road when you're trying to, either get into supplier recovery mode, where the same part or, the causal part or the problem found can then flow down to the supplier, and the entire process then needs to be automated right from when the claim is received to when the supplier accepts or denies, the recovery for the part. So hopefully that answers the question. If you think you have more questions around that, please feel free to add to the question dialog box there. Thank you, Manish.
Okay. No, thanks, Roshan. And let's get to the next slide here. We have about 3-4 more slides, and then we can wrap this up.